Welcome back to The Vision Within. I'm Lisa.
Loretta.
Lori.
Katrina.
And today we are going to talk, this episode, it's the third in our series of 4 today. We are going to talk about marketing ourselves. And what does that mean? Marketing ourselves in maybe personal relationships, marketing ourselves in business relationships. And so, Laurie, you want to start us off because you were really coming up with some really great things right beforehand.
Well, we were just talking about how it can feel different, how do we act in our personal life or our business life. But the interesting thing is, we all know there is no separation. And the more that we step into this world of authenticity and being ourselves everywhere, how does that come across when we market ourselves? And the interesting thing was I had a client and he said, he's like, I want this wonderful relationship. He's like, I would want someone like you to be attracted to me, someone who's confident in themselves and so forth and is their own woman, and I don't attract those kind of people. And I said, well, what do you think's going on? And he's like, well, I have to be an asshole at work, but then I'm, Mr. Suave, and really, I'm just this soft, fluffy teddy bear inside and so forth. And he said, but I can't be a soft and fluffy teddy bear in law,
Oh, he's a lawyer? Yeah, I'm a lawyer.
And I said,
I'm a lawyer too, that's why I'm saying that. Okay, go ahead.
But the beautiful thing is, especially the type of law that he is in has to do with traffic issues and, DUIs and things like that. And I thought, I said to him, what would it look like if you actually, went to people and said, just like how you would talk to someone else, that, how did it feel when you were rushing or this or that or the other, and people just, they're not being mindful. What if they didn't need you to be so angry, and everything else while you were there? Because I said, here's a revelation, you're both. It's like,
I love this. You may be changing the practice of law here.
I just have to be, an asshole here, and really I'm this. Well, why do we think that we need to put on any kind of thing? Because that, especially right now when we are really stepping into authenticity in a big way, that layer that we lived with for a long time, all these different layers of us, aspects of us, that doesn't fit at all anymore. And so people are really getting smacked down with that anymore of, wow, that's a big separation. That's a wall.
I agree with you. And that's why I had to leave the practice of law a year and a half ago and lobbying. Maybe I'll go back into law if I do immigration work or something like that, where it's really service to others. Interestingly, I just thought of something. My daughter called me this week and said, Mom, I need your advice. I'm dealing with a lawyer. I know better than to take on clients that are lawyers. She's an interior designer in Los Angeles. And she said, what happened was this client, and she actually recorded the conversation and had me listen to it. And the client was just being combative, Mom. I said, well, that's lawyers for you, combative, But yet she was trying. However, I just don't know how to deal with her because I don't think I can please her. And I think she's just going to nitpick and keep questioning everything I do and all of that. She's hard to please. So I listened to the conversation, and at one point, I thought it was going to be a lot worse than what it was. I could certainly see myself years ago in that same role. And at one point, the female said, gosh, I'm sorry, I sounded agitated there. She said, I'm sitting at my desk as a lawyer, my lawyer's desk at the office, and she said, I just have to take off my lawyer hat right now. She said, I'm really sorry, and put on my regular hat.
Right.
Because she realized in that moment that she was sounding combative.
But there is a huge, huge opportunity here to raise the bar.
Right. Yeah. I love this.
There really is.
Yeah.
Because the new level of law is embracing all of us, and it isn't combative.
Collaboration.
It is collaboration, and it's teaching.
Yeah.
It is teaching because, if we're not really listening to our client and then reflecting back, being a solid listener and reflecting back to them, I'm hearing you say this. Is this what you mean? Most of the time people are, they've got so much in their head that they're just going full steam, and they're vomiting words as they go, because they're so sick really with life that they need it to stop. And so they're just blah as they go. And then you reflect back, I'm hearing you say this. Oh, wow. I didn't mean that. Or I didn't, but they are not even slowing down enough to hear what they're saying.
I can tell you, as someone who struggled with that exact concept about being someone who is in this frame of mind, openness and what's called, in a limited fashion, new age or awakening mentality, whatever that means, and being in a place where the drives and the accepted conversations and practices and things are different, it can be challenging. But I've noticed how I've continued to choose those places where little by little they're opening up to me being more open and honest about really who I am, because I feel like I am one person at work. I'm still who I am. I just am not completely open. There's a part of me that still is kind of closed, because part of that makes folks uncomfortable. So, I don't talk about it, or I don't lend that point of view if conversation comes up. I stick very much to work. So it can be a little challenging. But I remember being years ago when I worked for Macy's and led a lot of people. The millennials that came in, I remember reading a book about how millennials are different, because the millennials that were being hired for the area that I was in wanted to be connected to me on Facebook. They wanted to go have drinks after work. They wanted to know about me personally and feel like they were connected to me personally. And I was like, you know what? That is my personal life, and that is none of your business unless I choose to make it your business. And I wanted there to be this separation. Like, I don't want us to be enmeshed outside of work. This is work. And I didn't allow for that transparency or that opportunity. I just shut it down. And so progressing into a place where everything is enmeshed and inclusive has been pretty challenging for me. And I've still chosen a place to be that has a little bit of that, but it seems to be progressing.
Well, what you're talking about is authentic leadership. And, we're talking, starting about marketing ourselves and then, being authentic. But at the end of the day, whether we're working for a corporation, whether we're working for our own company, our own business, we're
in a relationship and getting to know someone.
Relationships, right? But the thing is that we have to look at authentic leadership, and because we're leading people throughout these different aspects. I just finished reading a book for business. It's called "Why Should Anyone Want to Be Led by You?" And it talks about being an authentic leader and knowing when to take certain risks. But it also talks about not divulging too much about your personal life, knowing what that limit is, right? Because you still need to be the fearless leader that people respect and look up to in times of crisis. And if they know, too much about, you kind of lose that element of
you're turning
authority.
into a victim, and they're trying to rescue you instead of you being the leader. If you're leaning on your coworkers or your people you're trying to lead, asking them to help you with your personal life, right?
Well, it's not even asking to help; it's just divulging what your personal life is.
But isn't it that kind of like begging the
I guess it could be looked like that way too. I guess there's different parameters for that. But then when we talk about the leadership and everything and the marketing ourselves, you need to lead by example the clients that you have. You need to lead by example the people that you're around. You lead by example. Even when we go to the grocery store and we're kind to the clerk, we need to be. It's that whole leadership, and that's how we market ourselves from an authentic perspective, I think.
So authentic leadership means wearing your hat as a corporate leader, but also being true to yourself about kindness, is it? Or What
Well,
is
an authentic leader is not afraid to be by yourself and to really get down to the humanity of things. You were talking about not knowing sometimes how to handle different people, or you were talking about like your daughter was having the difficulty with a client.
Yeah.
The thing about authentic leadership is we have to know how to shift some of our leadership styles. And, there's those different styles of persuasion. You've got rationalizing, you've got negotiating, you've got bridging.
Yeah.
So depending on who you're talking to, being a really true, robust leader, authentic leader, and an empathetic leader is knowing when to shift your style in order to meet that person and draw them out, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, and it's a muscle. You have to figure out how to exercise it and how to build it up,
Well, one of my things I suggested to Caitlin was she sounds wounded and she is looking to you for a lot of things. And one of them I feel like is kind of a mothering. And she's asking for more communication, more stroking. Okay. So if you're going to keep her as a client, you're going to have, I think the authentic leadership here is to realize that I don't know if this is right or not, but the authentic leadership, but that your client really is a wounded child and wants you to help her in so many other ways besides the design. She wants communication. She wants trust, huge trust. And Caitlin talks about that a lot with her client relationship.
Sure.
She feels there has to be a trust there.
Absolutely.
Huge trust that the clients have to trust her. And
Well, and I'm sure she sees a difference because trust is built over time. It's a consistency of how somebody shows up. And so probably what I could see happening is that at the beginning there are a lot of questions, there's a lot of communication, it takes a lot of energy for Caitlin.
Yeah.
And as it progresses, maybe there needs to be less and less because as Caitlin continues to show up as who she is, and meet the client's needs, the client builds more trust.
Right.
And I think every time we step out into the world in any business transaction, meeting any people, joining a class, anything, we're invited to, it's almost like have the home field advantage. We are invited to be the home field where our energy is what creates, because we talked about in our last segment, frequency, feelings, thoughts, and actions, that we have complete control over all of those.
And words. Feelings, thoughts, words, action. Yeah, frequency, feelings, thoughts, words, action.
And that, yes, thank you. Yeah. And that the etymology of every word is really frequency and vibration. So sometimes when you're a thought leader and you're stepping into different space, it would be up to us to be the ones to kind of set the tone or set the vibration so that other people can feel comfortable or feel some level of comfort and trust stepping into that with us.
It's so interesting too that you would talk about home field advantage and all of that, because it really is the frequency of our heart, and that when we are doing what we love, we have such a strong frequency that we are automatically a leader. We're not persuading, we're not empathizing, we're not doing any of those things. We're simply digging the trench or forging the line. And the best example, I saw of this the other day, and I was so emotional just even watching it because it just was so powerful. I think there's this part of me that is emulating and modeling Mr. Rogers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, was it the movie about Mr. Rogers?
No, it was a scene where he went to Congress and he was trying to keep they were cutting children's television off of public PBS, and he was he is always the same. I don't care what was going on, he was always the same. He was stable, he was calm, he was very driven because he was so heart-centered. He was an anchor, and his voice, it was modulated just the same, and there was silence across the board, and the person who had to make the decision said, I walked in here as one person, and I'm telling you, I'm a completely different person right now after listening to you. And he changed. Everyone in that room became 5 years old.
So he communicated with
love.
with
It was the
love,
vibration
and he
of
raised
love.
everything
Right.
around him.
And so if we are going to market ourselves, it really isn't about worrying about how can we balance this or that or be authentic or vulnerable or whatever it is. We know at our heart of hearts what we are passionate about, and you hold that. You hold the line. And whatever you have to do, I've been writing things on my mirror just to remind myself, where I am. And one of the lines is from the thing you have in your house that says, I was born to do this.
I'm not afraid. I was born to do this. That was Joan of Arc.
Yes.
Well, getting back to the home thing and Mr. Rogers and your home field and all of that, what I'm hearing, I wanted to interject here a second to say it, is that marketing ourselves, if we're at home doing it, if we feel at home doing it, if we're our true authentic self, we are at home. And I just heard something recently. Do you know what home rhymes with? That allegedly is the universal tone.
Om.
Oh.
I'm just getting chills.
Oh, yes.
So Mr. Rogers welcomed everyone into his home.
Yes. Isn't that interesting?
That's
wow.
awesome.
What a frequency.
That's huge.
Yeah,
Right?
That's
That's
an
amazing
frequency that he probably brought into Congress with him.
Yes, he brought home with him.
Yeah. He emanated from home.
Yes.
And you're welcome into my home.
Yes.
Oh, that's
wow.
Yes.
The neighborhood, but it was his home that he brought everyone into. He brought the neighborhood into his home.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Huh.
Kind of on that same vein, I was at a conference recently, and part of the conference, my coaching group put on, and we had a panel of owners, because it's a franchise, and other owners could ask questions, and they had been particularly focused and successful in very different areas of their business. And the gentleman that I coach has been very successful at new customer acquisition through events at his store. And the fascinating part is that when he was talking about it, when we started to focus on getting new customers, we talked about it, and that's one of these situations where I knew he was going to be someone that I was coaching that wanted to work from the inside out. So he wanted to really deal with what's behind his fear of public speaking and how can he really connect to his passion for backyard bird feeding, because that's what the franchise is around. And so when he started talking, I said, you know what, just go and talk about what you love. Just talk about going from banker to birder. Like, just talk about that and be really excited about it and see what happens. He is one of the top 10 leading customer acquisition people or businesses in our chain of over 325 stores.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And when he was asked about what specifically did that, he said, you know what, when I go and do talks for people, I don't sell them anything.
That's right.
Nothing. I get excited about birding. I talk about how I went from being a banker to being a birder. I talk about the eagle nest cam that we have going. I talk about fun little facts about hummingbirds and that their hearts beat over 2,000 times a minute, and like all of these little things. And he said, and it gets people excited. And he said, I can tell when I'm reading my audience if they're with me because they start leaning forward in their chairs because they want to listen and be a part of it. And he said, by the end of that talk, they're so excited to feed the birds, they can't even see straight. And he said, I average 5 people within 2 hours in my store after I give a talk.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And it's all because he doesn't really market him. He does market himself, but he does it from a place of passion. He's connected with the energy of his heart, and it shifts everything. And to your point, I thought, okay, well, what if I went out on a date and I was as excited about life, which I'm pretty jazzed about life, and what if I was as jazzed about it on a date as I am about anything else? And what would that response look like? How would it be different? And what would the authentic connection be then? That kind of sprang from
think
that.
what is happening today, at least for me and this lawyer that you were coaching, and hopefully for a lot of lawyers like the client Caitlin had, lawyering is very combative, as we know, combative. And we're going into a new frequency where that just doesn't jive. So lawyers are saying to themselves in their work environment, I need to market myself with the lawyer combative hat on to be successful in the lawyer world. And it's true. I mean, it's a very combative world. And if you're not aggressive in that world, you're not going to be successful. That's the old paradigm. The new paradigm we're shifting into, and it's confusing a lot of lawyers, is that they are sensing something that they're not being authentic, wearing the combat hat, the army hat, in their job anymore, and we're not willing to market ourselves in that manipulative, competitive, combative way anymore.
And that whole structure is I'm right and you're wrong.
Right. And so how does a lawyer in the new world, in the new frequencies, the higher frequencies or whatever, market themselves in the lawyering world that used to have a strong foundation? And during the transition, you would hear a lot of lawyers say, well, I'm this way at work, but when I come home, I can be my true self.
Because for me, there's just a rich opportunity to be the teacher and to teach responsibility. Because the more that people come to you and, you put down, okay, this is the chain of events that happened that brought you here. Are you taking responsibility, for all of these? Because at some point, I think as we embrace responsibility for our thoughts, for our actions, for our words, when we embrace responsibility, our entire judicial system will have to change.
Yeah.
Because then there will just be, did you do this? Yes or no? All right, here's the fine for doing that or the penalty for that. And you go away.
Well, hopefully we'll get away from fear, pain, and punishment and no penalties and fines.
Right, because there will be responsibility.
Yeah.
And then people will say, oh, wow, I know how that feels to take that action and to pay that price. Therefore, I'm going to be mindful ahead of time.
Right.
And not get there.
So just like Mr. Rogers, the other real combative place is Congress or in front of a legislative committee. And Mr. Rogers went in and raised the whole frequency.
That's right. And every no matter what learning style they had, whatever, everything will go away.
But the court of law, the judicial system, the criminal system, is a very low frequency.
Sure.
And so it's difficult, simple, but not easy to walk into the court of law, the judicial system, the judge, who's going to look at it right or wrong. Like the Mr. Rogers did, but I guess we can all be the Mr. Rogers and Mother Teresa's.
The only frequency you have, right? The only responsibility you have is to hold your frequency.
So market ourselves with the highest frequency possible in every setting.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this.
Yeah.
So what if I am standing in my truth, I am, loving who I am respecting all life, I'm taking responsibility, and I show up and I am marketing myself, and no one comes to my party.
Well, then I would look at it and say,
I'm flapping out in the breeze, and no one's coming to the party.
Oh, hey,
and I'm being happy with myself, and I know and feel that the right answer or the best response is be who you are, and when you're happy in who you are, that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, I can really speak to this. I've had empty parties many times. Parties. Yeah, and this is awesome. It actually is awesome because Mark loves network marketing, and I love network marketing because I love networking. I love networking. But we've always had that challenge. Well, how do you make money doing network marketing? Because we just love doing it. We just have this party, and if whoever comes, and whatever. So the very first time we had a party at our house, we had everything we loved. We had wine, we had cheese, we had crackers, and we just had this little 10-minute thing that we were going to talk about, but nobody came. So it was so funny. So we drank our wine, we ate our cheese and crackers, and we watched Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come, And one of the most powerful women, at least in this region, in network marketing, did exactly the same thing. She had a party at her house every week, and no one came. for weeks and weeks. And finally, one of her neighbors felt bad for her and came. And then, 2 or 3 people came, whatever. I mean, the woman is making millions of dollars. And she wasn't selling anything. She wasn't doing anything. She just really was passionate about each product. And she's been in several companies, but about each product that she had. And she had her party on her own. She did not care who came. She isn't attached to who comes. She's just going to be consistent. And that's something that Mark and I are working on so much right now is consistency. Because a pattern for both of us has been stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. Because, we'll go full bore ahead completely in the belief if we're doing the right thing, no one shows to our party. And then are we doing the right thing? Should we do it this way? Should we tweak it? Whatever. Hell no. No. You keep going. You have your party. You don't care. If anybody comes, eat your wine and cheese.
Yeah. I love that
have
consistency. What do you think about consistency, Loretta?
I think consistency is very important, and I also think that you have to have the courage to stand alone.
Yes.
Because there's nothing wrong with standing by yourself and waiting for people to catch up to come to the party.
That's right.
Do you think that when you're a thought leader that happens?
Oh my gosh, totally.
This
How many
says
people
warrior.
Yeah.
It says warrior. And the reason that I did this and I cried when I put this on is because the whole thing behind it is to remind me it doesn't matter how many times you fall down.
Right.
It's that you keep getting up. That's it.
So maybe that's what authentic leader means.
We are thought leaders, people that are listening to us. They are in that, their head. That's why they don't feel part of what's going on. We are all thought leaders, and it isn't about no one showing up, to our party or anything. It's just about knowing we aren't alone. And that's the hope, anyway, of us doing this and creating these pools of people so that everyone knows you aren't alone.
Right.
You can call, you can turn on our channel, you can, reach out that guess what? We're here too. We've been stomped on. We've been the ant under the elephant foot, a million times, but we just keep coming back. We're like the weeble that wobbles and won't fall down, we just keep popping up.
Is that a child's rhyme?
Oh, yeah.
It's a toy.
Oh.
Fisher Price.
The weeble that wobbles.
No,
and
it says weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
Yeah.
And they're these cute little things. It had a magnet in the bottom.
That's cute.
So we've really had a really dynamic
we have.
episode again today. I think we're on a roll. This is great.
Too.
Yeah.
I love the idea of authentic leadership and that it comes from experience and resilience and being heart-centered. And you talked about being consistent. Who we are, we're who we are no matter where we show up. It's like the scene can change, but the actors, are still in the movie are still the same. Or maybe they aren't. That might have been a bad analogy. But we are the same, regardless of the backdrop, whether it's at our house, whether it's at work, whether it's in a court of law. And we talk about how the framework for certain paradigms like law is changing how lawyers see and market themselves. And all of this is about being true to who we are, being prepared to stand alone, because sometimes when you're a thought leader and when you're living this wholehearted life, that sometimes it takes a while for things to catch up.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and that's okay. And you know what? That's what we're doing right here, just having conversations so that other folks that are out there, that was our intent all along, is that we show up as thought leaders. We market ourselves. If nobody comes to the party, we have a great time anyway.
That's
Exactly.
right. But if we have great food in the back.
Yes,
we
we do.
We always have great food.
We never show the chow down.
Yes,
but it's always good and it's always
and
super
we may
healthy.
evolve into a cooking show just
Could be.
because we want you all to
Yeah, sharing the chow down with us. So
at the end, right?
There you go. So all of that is about wholehearted and marketing ourselves and standing in our truth. So, all right. We hope that you'll leave us some comments right below the video and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. We'd love for you to join us on the Thought Leader journey. And we look forward to hearing from you. I'm your host, Katrina.
I'm Lori.
Loretta.
And I'm Lisa. Till
Thank
next
you.
time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.